Hello, welcome to the Hard Carry. I'm your host Adam Fitch. As always with this series, I'm going to go through what's happened in the world of esports business in the past week, break it down to you and explain why things matter or perhaps why they don't matter at all. I tend to pick the things that do matter. Some weeks are quieter than others, and up until the very last minute, I'd say the past week that's just gone on, been a bit of an off one. Though exciting things have happened, there's not been the big blockbuster story we're kind of used to at this point, especially in 2020 so far. So the first story is the most recent, the one that kind of changed things. It's a very big deal if you really think about it. It's HLTV.org being acquired by Better Collective, a parent company very well known in the betting sphere, really. So HLTV.org is the most prominent publication, I guess you can call it that, though it's really an advertisement for gambling. Biggest publication for Counter-Strike Global Offensive Esports specifically. So rather niche website, not covering the entirety of esports by any means, and typically covering the kind of S tier of Counter-Strike. But it's been acquired for what's said to be a total of €34.5 million, which equals about £29.7 million. So you could say about £30 million deal. It's on a cash and debt-free basis, though not all of the money is exchanged hands just yet. So the deal not only includes HLTV.org, but it also includes Dust2.dk, which is like the Danish version, the kind of hyper-focused local publication for Denmark. So let me get to the numbers. So the total cost of the purchase, €26.4 million, will be paid up front. And of that amount, €23.7 million will be paid in cash and then shares of Better Collective, which has an approximate market value on Nasdaq of €2.7 million, will be issued prior to March 13th. And then the remaining figure from the €26.4 million will be structured as three separate payments. So one for the next one each year, I guess, for the next 3 years. Based on HLTV.org reaching performance criteria that has not been disclosed, so we don't know what that is, but obviously there'll be some ambitious numbers for them to get to, whether that means they completely sell the soul and really lay into the whole hype and clickbait culture. They've never really been that kind of company, that kind of publication, so I can't imagine that'll happen. But yeah, it's kind of an indication, I guess, of where esports can be and the kind of state it could be in. Considering it's a niche website, Counter-Strike explicitly, and Counter-Strike isn't the biggest game, really. I mean, it's still growing to this day, no doubt about it. There was a record day on Steam, I think, just yesterday, run alongside IEM. But yeah, it's not a League of Legends, for example, but there's not really an equivalent of HLTV.org in terms of size and stature when it comes to other games in esports. So We've seen the potential there. It seems like a good deal, especially if HLTV.org has kind of plateaued or like reached its ceiling and it needs an extra boost, or if it needs to really lean more into advertising the gambling side of things, which everyone will have strong opinions on. But doing that to make more money, it's a flagship purchase when it comes to esports. It has to be. Not necessarily an indication of where the industry is, but of where it can be if you're really successful. There's only kind of Dota Esports and Deserto who are putting up big numbers also. Everyone else is kind of flagging behind as far as I'm aware. So it's interesting. It's something to think on. And yeah, Better Collective, big move. A big move, especially I think it's the first move into esports, but if not, it's definitely the biggest move yet that they've made. So we'll go into Dota 2 now. The Dota Pro Circuit, which is the annual kind of the annual circuit for Dota 2, run by Valve, sanctioned by Valve, but with third-party tournaments getting involved and actually hosting the events, all with set prize pools and DPC point distribution and such. Has changed. So after TI10 in August, there will be 6 regional leagues and 3 majors. So there's going to be 3 seasons in a year. At the end of each season, there will be a major event, and then there will still be the flagship TI, which will likely keep putting up bigger and bigger numbers and creating a lot of hyperbole in the scene and some disparity within the Dota 2 scene itself. So, the regional leagues will be covered in China, Europe, North America, Southeast Asia, South America, and the CIS region. So, and in each season, the league will have a total prize pool of $280,000. and each league will be split into 2 divisions. So there'll be an upper and a lower, with the bottom 2 teams in the lower division getting relegated and open qualifiers deciding the teams that step in. So it's an interesting move. No one really has all the answers yet, and nobody will know how it goes. But what it will do is create a lot more Dota for people to watch. For the fans, it's probably a good move in that sense, though it might dilute the scene a little bit. But for me, I kind of look at it as a way of bringing Dota 2 closer to League of Legends, what Riot Games has done with the ERLs and all the different regional leagues out there, and the kind of ecosystem and infrastructure it's created and continues to create. It's interesting. It's seen as the most sustainable scene, I'd say, League of Legends. So Dota moving towards that instead of having just the flagship event and then the smaller events. Even though majors are still big in stature and value and such, like, they're not necessarily treated as huge events outside of Dota 2 for people, though everyone will tune in to watch TI, because it's a spectacle in its own right. So potentially changing the entire face of Dota 2 esports, though we need some answers on some other bits and bobs to truly understand how it's going to run. But broadcast in studios and such, upper division, it'll be very interesting to see how it goes, It's definitely a big change, and Dota 2 is still considered by many to be in the tier 1 of esports. I think that's necessarily, mostly hinged upon TI, it's hard to ignore that. But now with a potentially more sustainable ecosystem, or a more regular one, more regulated one, it'll be interesting to see how the perception of Dota 2 changes from the wider scene, as well as how things go, like, insular to the scene as well, how people accept it, that both the players and the fans alike, as well as the organisations. If it starts seeing what PUBG has had, where organisations are dropping out left, right and centre because it's no longer sustainable, then then obviously, the change hasn't done well. But it's like proof in the pudding in this one. We'll just have to watch and see how it goes. But it's definitely a big change. The what do they call it? The Season 1 Fall League starts on October 5th, so that's when we can truly see it in action and see how it goes. So while that seems like a long time to wait, a week is like a month when it comes to esports. It's ridiculous. Things move so fast and there's so much going on, and with that in mind, things will move quickly, and TI10 and then the regional leagues will be here before we all know it, realistically. So we'll move on to Herman Miller, furniture manufacturer and retailer. We all know Herman Miller now from Jason Lake's tweet where he slagged off gaming chair companies, and then Complexity Gaming, surprise, partnered with Herman Miller. Very luxury brand in terms of price and such, but apparently the comfort and structure and support is unrivaled. And that's many people's opinion, at least. I'm still using a shitty office chair, so I cannot comment myself. And I just can't legislate for the price of a Herman Miller or a gaming chair when this chair does the job, as long as I focus on my posture and such, So yeah, Herman Miller has partnered with Logitech G, which is the gaming brand of Logitech, to develop furniture targeted towards esports competitors and streamers. So it's not wholly esports in a sense, if you're a purist and don't class streaming or influencers as part of the ecosystem there. But the first collaborative product will be a co-branded gaming chair, which will be released in spring. We haven't seen a look of it yet. We don't know what it's got that other Herman Miller chairs or gaming chairs don't have. But it's a sign that Herman Miller spotted the kind of demand in esports for a really good chair. And obviously the partnership with Complexity Gaming's given it enough of a taste of what potentially is there, and creating something perhaps more suitable for people's budgets, and specifically aimed at gamers and the challenges that come with sitting and hunching over and playing a console or PC for hours at a time. Hopefully that they're looking to fill that gap, and they can address that and make something sustainable money-wise, so my bank account actually can still exist in a positive, and it saves my back and my neck, because obviously longevity and health is a big thing in esports. Even though people are sat down for a living, basically, that's all the more reason to be healthy outside of it, and you still want to optimize the experience while they are practicing, scrimming, training and competing, So this is a move worth keeping an eye on coming into the spring. We don't have an exact date yet, but another interesting detail is the companies will work alongside Complexity Gaming, Team SolarMid, Na'Vi, potentially other organisations, but they're the ones that were disclosed at the time of the announcement, to test the products, and then they will incorporate player feedback, apparently. Whether that just means, do you want the arms a bit higher, or do you want a bit lower, or should we do adjustable arms? Should we do this? Should we do that? It'll be interesting to see how that goes. We'll not actually find out the feedback, I assume, from the organisations, but what should come out of this is a really solid chair, and if not, then we have to question how much of the player feedback they've taken into account, and if the player feedback actually resonates and makes sense with the wider community, So yeah, I think that's everything on Herman Miller. Riot Games has expanded its deal with Nielson to implement a Live Plus metric for the LCS, the North American League of Legends competition. So Live Plus is a viewer measurement system which will measure video on demand viewership more accurately than ever before, which is the kind of hyperbolic shit we're used to at this point, according to a press release at least. So the initial partnership between Riot Games and Nielsen started in June last year in an attempt to help clarify and give a better forecast as to what sponsorships are worth, like measuring the viewership and exposure on streams and such. Live Plus, we don't know how it'll turn out yet, but apparently it will use the industry standard key metric, which is average minute audience. People have opinions on that, no doubt. Myself, I'd like to see something everyone can get behind that gives an accurate kind of value towards each viewer and what the viewers kind of mean for broadcasters. What is a good amount of viewers, because at the moment it's all subjective. It'd be good to say, right, here's the cost per viewer, to really get an idea of what's what. But baby steps, we'll get there eventually. Nielsen being involved, in my eyes, is a good thing. Hopefully we can. I know I put out a tweet the other day saying which hopefully. Eventually we'll get to a point where there's a unified standard that everyone's using, and people smarter than me have said that'll just create another standard and no one will really adhere to it and such. We'll have to see, but it's trying to unlock really the true value and such, and getting accurate data of esports viewership is huge, especially when these stupid numbers are flying about left, right and centre and kind of leading people into spending money in esports where they've got no reason to, because they're actually being lied to all along and in the right demographic, or the viewership isn't necessarily there as much as you thought, or perhaps location wise it's skewed to Asia and you're a Western company that serves only Europe. You've got to work things out properly, and having the data to back it up and to create or to allow you to create like informed judgments is crucial, of course. So that's that. We'll have to see how that turns out as well. Hopefully they'll be very transparent in the data that's gathered and found with the Live Plus metric. And last but not least, just a little one. Samsung Electronics Australia has renewed its partnership with Australian organisation Legacy Esports for a third year now. So this will be the third year of the partnership. It's the second renewal. They provide peripherals to the players of Legacy Esports and support the organisation's competitive and grassroots esports programs, though we don't necessarily know how in which they support. I guess they're just giving away free bits and bobs for people to use, which you can't discount. It's a good thing, but it's not the most intensive partnership, just looking at it. But yeah, it's a good sign for Oceanic Esports, which has got the likes of Marvel with Chief Esports recently, and Chief Esports clubs, that is, and a bunch of other deals coming through. Not as much investment as you see in the likes of America, but I mean, it's a start. Hopefully it continues to keep going. I'd like to see all regions thriving, and this is just a small step nonetheless towards that being the case. Samsung is no joke, big brand. Keeping its involvement with Legacy suggests that it's got its value from the organisation. It's found where it can actually benefit from the partnership, or they're still trying to work it out, but they have faith that it's possible, So I'd say that's all of the big news, noteworthy news from the last week in the esports industry. I'm very tired. It's been a mad week, as you can tell by the fact that I can't even speak straight at the moment, but we'll get through it as always. So thank you for watching the Hard Carry or listening to the Hard Carry. It's on YouTube, but also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, everywhere you can access podcasts for the most part, anywhere prominent at least. So yeah, thank you for tuning in every Saturday. I'll keep you up to date, short and sweet videos, 15 minutes max as a rule, so you can stay on top of what's what. You form your own opinions, let me know of them. If I've missed anything that you think was noteworthy, let me know. Perhaps we can discuss it, or I can kind of keep an eye on what people want to hear moving forward and deliver, So yeah, thank you again, and I'll catch you next weekend. Cheers.